It was a Tuesday. I'd been at a friend's apartment across the city. We'd watched something, eaten something, talked the way you talk when you're comfortable with a person. By the time I left, it was almost 1 a.m. I had 2 options. I could wait for the night bus, which ran infrequently at that hour and would take 40 minutes and drop me 3 streets away from my building. Or I could walk. It was 40 minutes on foot, maybe 35 if I moved faster. I've done it before. I've done it since. That stretch of the city at that hour is not the kind of place that makes you feel afraid. It's mostly residential, long rows of houses with their lights off, a few late-night shops still lit but quiet, the occasional car, the occasional person. Nothing I had not moved through 100 times before. So I walked. It's a residential street, houses on both sides, most of them converted into flats, a few parked cars, a single lamppost about halfway down that casts a circle of light on the pavement. I turned onto it, and almost immediately I noticed the first thing. There was a chair, in the middle of the pavement, not to the side, not near a bin or a doorstep, not in a way that suggested someone had set it out and wandered back inside. In the middle, placed, not dropped. The kind of placement that implies deliberateness. It was a wooden kitchen chair, straight-backed, the kind you'd find at a table, and it was sitting there on an empty pavement at 1 a.m. with no explanation attached to it. I slowed down. I looked at it for a moment, and then I did what you do when something is odd but not dangerous. I moved around it, kept walking. I told myself someone had moved furniture, students probably. Someone had moved something out and left a chair on the pavement and would come back for it in the morning. That was the explanation. That was enough. Except, about 20 meters further on the other side of the road, there was another chair. Same kind, same placement, dead center of the pavement, facing, and this is the detail I couldn't not notice, facing back in the direction I'd come from. 2 chairs, same street, neither near a doorstep, neither tipped over, abandoned, thrown, placed. I stopped walking. I stood between them and looked at both, and I felt something I did not have a name for yet. Not fear, something more like the sensation before a thought arrives, the moment when you know something that hasn't been told to you yet. I kept moving. The road ahead was empty, and that would have been fine. Streets are empty at 1 a.m. That is not unusual. That is not the thing I'm describing. What I'm describing is how the empty felt. The street had gone quiet in a way that felt less like lateness and more like held breath, like something pausing. I kept walking, and then I came to the lamppost, the single one I mentioned, the one halfway down the road that made its orange circle on the pavement. The lamp was off. Now, lamps go off. Lamps malfunction. That is not the thing. The thing is that I could see the lamp's glow from the entrance to the street. I had seen it from 30 meters back. It had been on, and now it was off. I had not heard a click. I had not seen it dim. It was simply off, as if it had always been off, as if I had imagined it lit when I turned the corner. I stood in the dark patch that the lamp had stopped making light of, and I looked ahead. At the far end of Morley Road, maybe 40 meters away, there is a junction, a small crossroads with a stop sign. I'd walked through it 100 times, and standing in that junction, standing in it and facing in my direction, was a figure, not moving. I want to be careful here. I want to be precise, because imprecision is how this kind of account becomes something it isn't. It was a person. I do not know if it was a man or a woman. I could not make out the face or the clothes with any certainty. It was too far and too dark, and the nearest light source was the lamppost that had just stopped working. It was a person, standing at the end of the road, facing toward me. Still, I stopped. We stood there, me in the middle of Morley Road, the figure at its end, for what I measured later as approximately 40 seconds. I know that sounds short. 40 seconds is not short when you are standing in the dark watching someone stand very still and watch you back. Then I did something I cannot fully explain. I looked away. Not because I was dismissing it, not because I had decided it was nothing. I looked away the way you look away from something when some part of you has decided that maintaining eye contact will make it real in a way you are not ready for. I looked at the pavement. I looked at the chair on my left, still sitting there. And when I looked back at the junction, the figure was gone. I did not walk through that junction. I turned left. There's a parallel road that runs the length of Morley Road. Carlisle Street, longer, less direct, the kind of road you take when you have time to spare. I did not have time to spare, but I turned onto it anyway. I told myself I was being sensible. I told myself that standing in the dark at the end of a residential street is something people do. Night walkers, insomniacs, people taking a late phone call. I told myself the chairs had an explanation I simply hadn't witnessed. I told myself the lamp had blown. I told myself all of that on Carlisle Street while walking faster than I'd been walking before. Carlisle Street at that hour had a few more lights. A corner shop on the far end still open, warm light from the window. A bus stop with a lit panel. Normal things. I was almost at the corner shop when I looked across the road and saw it again. The figure. Or a figure. I cannot tell you it was the same person. I cannot tell you it wasn't. Same stillness, same aura, facing me. On a street I had turned onto to avoid the first one. On a street I had chosen without a pattern, without an announcement, without any reason a person following me could have predicted. I kept walking. I did not stop this time. I did not look long. But the sensation that had started on Morley Road had found its name. Wrong. This is wrong. Not dangerous, maybe. Not an immediate threat I could identify. But wrong. I got to the corner shop. I went inside. I stood between two shelves of tinned goods, and I breathed for a minute while the man behind the counter watched me with mild curiosity. I bought a bottle of water I didn't need, partly to justify being there, mostly to give myself something to do with my hands. I stood near the window. The street outside was empty. I waited 5 minutes. Then I called a cab. The cab took 11 minutes to arrive. When the cab arrived and I got in and we pulled away from the corner shop, we drove back the way I'd come. Not my decision, just the route the driver took. And we passed the end of Morley Road. I looked down it. The lamppost was on. Orange circle on the pavement, clear as it had ever been, not flickering, not sputtering back to life, just on, as if it had never been otherwise. The chairs were still there. I could see them from the junction, two small shapes in the lamplight, still placed where I'd seen them, still in the middle of the pavement. The driver didn't say anything. I sat in the back of that cab and I watched Morley Road disappear behind me, and I thought, someone will come for those chairs in the morning. Someone will have an explanation. It will be so ordinary that I'll feel stupid for the weight I've given it. I went home. I made tea. I sat at my kitchen table a little, then went to bed. I went back to Morley Road the next day, in daylight, just before noon. The chairs were gone. I walked the full length of the road 3 times. I looked in bins. I looked in gardens. I knocked on the door of the house nearest to where I remembered the first chair being and asked if they'd moved furniture recently. I checked the houses on the opposite side. I walked the length of the road looking at every doorstep, every garden, every parked van with an open back, anywhere 2 wooden kitchen chairs might have gone. Nothing. Now. Someone could have collected them in the night or in the early morning. That is possible. Someone placed them out there for whatever reason and came back for them before I returned. That's possible. I went home. I have walked home late at night many times since then. I take Morley Road sometimes. I walk past the lamppost. I look at the pavement where the chairs were. There's nothing there. I've tried to find rational endings for this. I've genuinely tried. I got home safely. I want to be clear about that. Nothing touched me. Nothing followed me through my door. Nothing reached the end I was afraid of. But something happened on Morley Road on that Tuesday morning that I have not been able to put into a box that closes properly. And I've tried a lot of boxes. If you've walked through something you can't explain, not a feeling, not a mood, Not a trick of the dark, but something with structure to it, something that had moving parts. Then you know what I mean.